Today in history, in 1952, West Indian cricketer Viv Richards, who earned the nickname Master Blaster as arguably the finest batsman of his generation, was born in Antigua.
Welcome to What the Fuck History, where we discuss the wackiest and weirdest things that make us say, well, what the fuck history. I am the ghost of past, present, and future Zachary, and yes, I know about all of your sins.
My name's Meghan, and I am just wondering why I don't have a cool nickname like Master Blaster.
And I'm Matt. Today I learned that dads abandon their children at Disneyland because they think it will lessen the impact of them abandoning their child.
What
the fuck?
History.
Okay,
so
that's a stat. That's not history.
Two wild dad facts about Disney that I know.
So
What's the other wild dad fact? That
yeah,
you know?
tell us the other dad fact.
The other dad fact about Disney that I know is that there is an Instagram page called Dilfs of Disneyland.
Stop it.
Where it's just a bunch of buff dads with their kids at Disney. And honestly, it's life goals. Like, one day I want to be featured on Dilfs of Disneyland.
That's great.
That's crazy. Are there MILFs of Disneyland? Because
I don't know. It just doesn't have the same alliteration,
Yeah,
so I
it
don't
doesn't.
really care
I mean,
about it.
it doesn't. But like, I'm really invested in MILF Manor now. So
I can't. I don't know. I can't get behind it. I can't. My coworker tried to get me into it. He's like, "You're gonna come over to my house and watch MILF Manor with me," and I'm like, "Why? I hate reality television."
it's not about loving it, Zach. It's about watching people be
It's about
extremely uncomfortable
not
on
being
camera.
able to look away from the train wreck.
Yeah, but at the same time, I asked him if Young Gravy was involved, and when he said no, I said I don't care anymore.
That's fair. Young Gravy should be dealing with all the MILFs.
Yes. He should be the host of MILF Manor.
So to get
Oh my God, there is no host to
Okay.
be fair.
Never mind.
What were you gonna say, Matt?
Well,
What are you gonna say?
I didn't know. We can go back to talking about MILFs after, but I figured you guys would want to know about dads abandoning their kids at Disney.
Yes, I do want to know.
So
I wanna know.
I was just scrolling through the internet and found out that there's like a shocking. It's probably not like a trend, but there are a number of dads who like get into lines with their kids and then say that they're gonna like run to the bathroom quick and then just never come back.
But like, why?
And then like the parks have to deal with like child services.
I hate that. I hate that. It does remind me of a conversation we had earlier where I once again said to Meghan, if you're gonna make the fuck trophy, why aren't you gonna pay attention to it?
I don't like. All I can imagine is that like the fuck trophies are expensive, right?
Yeah, I mean, the average cost per year for a child in this country is $15,000, but
Yeah, I'm not
Like,
making that money.
I know, but like, I don't think abandoning your child in general is a great fucking life
Oh,
choice.
no, Zach,
but doing it
I'm
at
not
Disney
saying-
World to assuage the guilt that you have and make it feel like you are less shitty
Right.
ain't good.
Now,
Yeah, I'm not.
Like, what's
I'm
gonna
not saying
happen?
it's a
Mickey
good
Mouse is
thing.
gonna fucking come over and be like, "Huh? Sorry, your dad doesn't love you."
yes, that is exactly what Mickey will do.
That is what happens.
Now, I could also be
Gorge, it looks like you've been left in the park.
I could also be the victim of an internet bamboozling.
I mean, aren't we all sometimes?
Because I didn't verify any of the facts. I just watched like a thing that said, "Hey, sometimes dads leave their kids at Disney." I was like, "That sounds like a fun way to start a podcast."
So here's the thing.
Yeah.
I was yelled at by a middle-aged dad today.
Love that for you.
Yep. I was. Am I allowed to say vile words on this podcast?
I mean, that's all we do. So
We have not gone so far as to say the C word yet.
Okay. Well, that is what I was called.
Oh. Well,
And-
Gross.
Hey, Meghan, you have my phone number, right?
Yeah. Why?
If that ever happens again, just call the Brute Squad.
Yeah.
Hi,
Oh my
I'm the
God.
Brute Squad.
Zach and I are both the Brute Squad.
You are the Brute
Yeah.
Squad.
It was very
I'm
weird.
the Brute Squad.
And if those dads are like anything like that dad, like something happens to middle-aged men, right? So I can see them abandoning their children.
Yeah.
At Disney.
I
like
can
for
too.
no reason.
We have a dad-demic in this country.
We do have a
We
dad
definitely we definitely do. Like, and I think it could be solved by therapy.
It sure
I mean,
could.
yeah, a lot of things in this country need therapy. This country included.
Yeah, the country needs therapy.
It needs therapy desperately. Or it just needs, like, I don't know, maybe dads just need, like, willing family members.
This country
to, like,
needs a better dad.
Yes.
Honestly, dads need dads.
Dads need dads. I'm gonna get us going here.
Yeah, get us going.
I just want to let the listeners know, we would have reset our strikes to 0, but I did make a joke before the podcast. If you listen to our After Dark segment, you'll hear it. And so I am starting the podcast with 1 strike. My compatriots are starting the podcast with 0 strikes. We played a fully imaginary game of rock, paper, scissors. It happened only in our minds and only for your benefit. The order that we will be presenting to you in tonight is Meghan first, because we agreed upon it last week. Zach second, because his story is funny. And me last, because my story is wholesome. So, buckle up and let's get started!
Alright,
let's
I actually
get
just
ready
wrote
to
this
rumble.
one tonight.
What's up?
I wrote this story tonight, like, you know how I have, like, a
Holy
backlog
shit.
of stories?
Oh, well, it's a fresh take?
It's fresh.
I know, it's a fresh take. Well, we started making fun about French, and this one happens in France, so...
Oh, nice.
And China.
And China, okay.
Yeah, and in the world of make-believe, which is gender.
Ah, wait. Wait.
What?
Clarify.
Well, gender's made up.
Gender's a construct.
Gender is a
It's a
social
construct.
construct, just like time.
Yeah,
Okay,
so
yeah.
this also takes place in the world of gender.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So the title of my story is Gender is Made Up, but Espionage Matters.
Good.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. So, like I said, gender is like a social construct. It's pretty like complicated, and like so is sexuality. I think we can all agree on that.
I think, yes, we can.
Yes, we can. These are facts.
I think it's changing
Like, we're
every
laying the
day,
groundwork.
and all of us will remain ignorant forever.
Until
Ignorant but
Yeah.
diligent.
Ignorant, but always
but
erring on the side of wanting to do the right thing.
Yes.
yeah, erring on the side of caution. So that being said, I'm not really sure why this whole story like even happened, to be honest. Like
Okay.
like I have nothing funny to say about that. Like I read this whole story and I was like,
I think the sentence itself was funny enough.
I mean, that's good, because I was just like, man, I usually have, like, these intros to these stories, but, like, by the time I got to the end of the story, I was like, why did this whole
story
thing
happen?
Okay, but that's
Yeah, I
like,
was like-
most of history, where it's like, I mean, you could have avoided this whole mess if you weren't a fucking idiot.
Megan,
I
I
mean,
told a
I-
story on this very podcast about a war that lasted 38 minutes.
30, that's true. You did.
So,
And
like, I think Zach's right that pretty much any situation in history could have been stopped by, like, now hold on.
Well, hold on. Yeah, so I guess, like, I just wanted to preface that, like, when you're confused, I'm also confused.
Okay,
Like,
all
I don't have an explanation to the things that are going to be happening, because I had, like, 4 different articles open about
Okay.
this story, and, like, all of them had slightly different information, and none of it was, like, clarifying.
That's not always the best, but
I love that.
Yeah, so I
we
guess,
do
like,
our research,
without...
just sometimes research fights back.
It definitely was fighting back. I was like, I'm out here fighting for my fucking life, like, trying to figure this out. But anyway, so, like, without further ado, let's go back to ancient history. And by ancient history, I mean the 1930s. We have our main character, one of our main characters. His name is Shi Pepu. And they were born in China, in Shandong's province in 1938, but they grew up in Yunnan, learning French while attending Yunnan University. The French part is important.
Okay.
I don't like
Yes.
stories where the French part is important, but I'll allow it.
But here we are. Also, as a side note,
Yeah.
can I just like add this little story?
Meghan, it's literally our podcast. You can do whatever you want.
Amazing. So this will be shitting on the French more, but
Then I'll definitely allow it.
Amen, brother. So when I was studying Chinese in Taiwan, like I was in classes with like other foreigners from like different countries who were also learning Chinese. So like I could understand like their Chinese with whatever accents they were sort of throwing on to it, right? Like, you know, you could understand Thai people speaking Chinese or like Korean or whatever.
Yeah.
But the one group I could not understand were the French trying to speak Chinese. It was like slowly drowning in a river of too many vowels,
Yeah.
and then they would get aggravated like when you couldn't understand them because they were absolutely like butchering.
Yeah.
Wait, so you're telling me that the French were upset that you couldn't understand them? That's not a surprise.
Well, I mean,
like,
take the marbles
it's-
out of your language.
Yeah, like take the marbles out of your language, out of your mouth, like, and like watching French people try to speak Chinese is like, I don't know, dude. It's like watching them speak French, but to the left.
The
like,
Hindenburg of cultural exchanges. I understand.
Oh, man.
It truly is. It's a vowelistic car crash.
Hey.
So anyway,
I want to just briefly do an aside to us in the future. Hey, What the Fuck History podcast people in the future. This is why we don't have fans in France.
I don't give a shit. Okay, they're mean. They're mean.
And their city smells like piss, so.
That's so true. Where's the piss?
Where's the piss?
So me saying that is like, I don't know if this goes the opposite way because like I've never heard a Chinese person speak French. So I don't know. Maybe it's worse. Maybe it's better. Who can say? Anyway, so that's my little story. So Shu learns French and at 17 becomes an actor and a singer of like, you know, mild renown. Like people can pick him out of a crowd. So enter stage left. We have our French boy, Bernard.
Bernard is such a good French name.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think his last name is Boriscott.
That is not French.
That's not French at all, but okay.
Didn't you used
that's
to have a
how-
friend named Bernard?
Me? Yes, I did.
Yeah.
I'm going to put the last name. Maybe Zach can offer some enlightenment because it doesn't inherently look French, but he was born in Paris.
Oh, yeah, no, that's a French name.
How do you...
Ooh,
Boriscott?
Yvonne, that's a French-ass name.
Anyway, so I'm going to be saying Boriscott, I guess.
I mean, I feel like, to me, it's like Boiscott
It's probably
Boiscott?
Borsco.
or
Borsco?
Borsco, yeah.
Borsco. Okay, so Bernard Borsco. Let's go with that.
Bernard Merlot.
I'm
Bernard
not
Bernard
drinking any
Bordeaux.
more Merlot.
Bernard Bordeaux. That's really the...
Yep, Bernard Bordeaux.
We could make fun
so
of this man's last name for the entire podcast.
Oh, for the entire... I mean,
But we
I'm
do
really
have
tempted
stories
to
to
call
get
him
to.
Bernard
We should
Merlot.
Bernard Let's Go.
Yeah.
Okay, so Bernard Let's Go, who was born in France in 1944, so really missed the spicy bit
Yeah.
of
Just
of
missed
French.
the spicy bit.
Yeah,
It's good to
just
be the
missed the
king.
spicy bit. So during his youth, he attended various boarding schools where he had various homosexual relationships with other students.
We love that.
But
Love
we
that
do
for
love
Bernard.
that. We love a gay king.
Explore your truth.
He was exploring his truth. He thought it was like a rite of passage that most students shared in French boarding school. So he's like, this is good. Like, this is normal.
He thought that
Bernard got to boarding school and was like, gay is in, gay is hot, I want me some gay.
he thought
Yeah,
having gay
he's like, "I'm ready."
experiences was part of the boarding school.
curriculum.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
It was like 5
making
o'clock
sure that I
dinner.
understood that sentence.
I have Getting That Dick 101 at 8 a.m. this semester. Fuck.
I have anal play at 6 p.m. So like after dinner, I gotta go.
So he was.
So upon graduation, he was pretty determined to have sex with a woman for the first time and like settle down and have a family. So
Because that's how
Oh, with
that,
that,
works.
Boarding school.
I- yeah,
So boarding school was his first he had like a sexual awakening in boarding school, and then decided he would try women.
No sex,
he was,
all the butt sex. I wonder what a vagina's like.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think to be fair, he ended up becoming, like, a bisexual king.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay.
So,
Good for him.
like, I think...
Learn your truth.
Yeah, I think that's where he sort of fell. So, with the goal in mind, though, to have sex with a woman for the first time, he, at the age of 20, arrives in Beijing for his job as an accountant with the French embassy. The sexiest of jobs.
Accounting?
Yeah, at the French embassy in Beijing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he's like, I'm 20, I'm ready to hit it. This is the city of hookups.
He said ready to hit it, but what he meant was, like, hit the numbers.
Yeah, he was like, I'm gonna hit these books and the clubs.
Fair.
I'm gonna, I'm getting paid, so I can maybe pay these women. It was unclear what his plan was.
Getting paid, trying to get laid.
There we go.
Getting paid, trying to get laid. Not really successful, I think, at first.
Was he successful at getting paid, though?
Yeah, I mean, I assume they had a payroll and an HR department at the French embassy. Or they could have been paying him in brie.
The cheese?
Yeah, so...
One wheel a week, baby!
One wheel a week, and that's light for a Frenchman. So he's in Beijing, he's an accountant, he's looking for love in all the wrong places, and this is where he, in 1964, meets Shi as a party held by the second highest ranking officer in the French diplomatic headquarters. So, like, this guy's having, like, a cool, little soiree, and he's like, everyone's invited. I'm going to invite this opera singer who also happens to be a Chinese teacher in the diplomatic community because she wore many hats. Anyway, so they, like, immediately hit it off. Like, Bordeaux and she are having a good time, but she is dressed like a man.
Okay.
However, he tells Bosco that he is a woman and that he has to dress as a man to please his father, who wanted a son.
Okay.
And Bosco believes him because she has, like, a lot of feminine features, and he actually played female parts in Beijing operas. And he's like, I have no reason not to believe you. Like, we're really hitting it off. Like, I'm willing to have, like, the hookup glasses on. Like, I'm willing to see whatever you're telling me.
It's
2
a.m., the bar's closing, and I'm willing to go home with whoever is here. Got it.
Yeah, like, I am willing. So the two continued to keep up and in touch after the party, and they met several times. And the pair eventually decided to take their relationship to the next level, and they start having sex. Now, at this point, you're probably saying, hey, wouldn't this be the point when this French guy, like, figures it out? And the answer is
clearly
no.
not.
He does not figure it out. So their encounters were always really fast. And, like, kind of clandestine. And also, she had the ability to make his balls ascend into his body cavity. And somehow, he claimed that he could manipulate his dick into creating the illusion of a vagina that allowed for superficial penetration. I'm not a scientist, but this seems like a pretty cool thing that the body can do. Again, why did this need to happen, though?
I'm more concerned about the fact that someone wrote about it.
Oh, we're getting to it later.
Okay.
So, now it's time for the espionage.
Alrighty.
I
forgot that
we
the
had
story
the gender.
was about espionage, if I'm being honest.
Well, yeah, this is... Please. Like, there's a part 2. So the espionage happens during the 60s when these two are having their affair. So during the 60s, China's in the throes of, like, the Cultural Revolution, which is, like, this really sticky point in time when the communist government is trying to, like, weed out everything that they perceive to be, like, holding them back. And when the Chinese government like discovers she and Borsko's affair, they start pressuring Borsko into providing documents from the French embassy in Beijing. They're like, oh, like, she works for us. You should give him or her the documents to make her look better in the eyes of the Communist Party. This will, like, give her a leg up. And so Borsko's like, I love her. Like, I will give these documents to her. I don't see why not. So this happens over the course of a decade.
Okay.
And during this time, she and Borsko couldn't meet as frequently as they once had. But on one of their rare rendezvous, she produced a 4-year-old son and claimed that it was theirs. Like, just produces a boy.
Not great.
Yeah, it's just like, this is our son.
Where
and
did
Borsko
you procure this boy from?
All right, time to go to Disneyland.
Oh my god. Not okay.
No. But you know what? To be fair, Borsko believed him and essentially adopted the kid.
Which is nice. Like,
Yeah.
Which is nice because she did purchase this boy from a Uyghur woman in Xinjiang. I don't know how.
this story is wild.
Why did any of it need to happen? So, in 1979, Borsko returns to France and he loses like contact with Xi, but then like re-finds him in 1982 and says, "Why don't you and our now 16-year-old son come to Paris so we can live together as a family?" And she agrees, and they get to Paris, and it's a good time. However, the fairy tale wasn't meant to last because Borsko was arrested in 1983 by agents of the Direction de la Surveillance de Territoire, aka French Homeland Security, where he was questioned by authorities and revealed that he had given Xi like 150 confidential documents.
Oh no.
Yeah, it's a lot of confidential
That's a
documents.
decent amount. That's a good amount of confidential documents.
It's a lot of confidential documents. So, you know, their case goes through the courts, and in 1986, like, the two of them are essentially sentenced to 6 years in prison for espionage. And it was then that Borsko finally learns that she, the woman he has been having a sexual affair with for the past 20 years and believed that he had a son with, was a man.
Okay.
Like, he is so upset by this that he attempts suicide in prison by slitting his throat.
Oh my god.
He does survive.
Good.
Okay.
And then the following year, she is pardoned by the French El Presidente in an attempt to, like, help Chinese-French tensions. And Borsko also obtains a pardon that year where he's released to the French public and subsequently made an object of French laughter because they're like, haha, how could you not know?
Fuck the French.
Because I assume that's how the French laugh at people. They're like, ha ha.
I'm fairly
Oh, no, it's
certain
hon
that
hon.
it's hon.
Ha ha. Yeah.
And then they
they're
throw
just like-
in like a baguette.
Yeah, they definitely throw in the bad guy. So, upon being released from prison, she returns to the opera and to his adopted son, and he tries to remain in contact with Borsko, saying that he still loved him, even a month before he died in Paris at the age of 70. And Borsko, on the other hand, was like over it. He declared that he had no sadness over Xi's death and that the slate was clean and he was now free. And when you were like, I can't believe someone wrote about this, their story actually inspired the play Madame Butterfly in 1988, which won the Tony that year.
Holy fuck.
Nice.
Yeah, so...
I don't know how I feel about that.
I know, like, the story is really strange because, like, when I said I didn't, like, why did any of this really need to happen? Borsko was clearly fine with, like, homosexual relationships.
Yeah.
So I'm not really sure, like...
Why it needed to be lied about?
I guess, yeah. And then, like, I don't understand why the lie had to then go on for so long, and, like, I don't know. I couldn't find a reason.
It's hard, because on one hand, subterfuge in a relationship is shitty. You should be open with your partner.
Yeah.
But two, we have an issue with gender politics in the modern day and age.
Yeah.
I can't imagine what they were like in 1860. So...
Yeah, so this happens in, like, the 1900s, right? Which, like, not great.
Even, yeah, 1900s, I can't imagine what gender politics were in that day and age. So, like, maybe she was, you know, a person who, you know, identified as female but never got a chance to, like, fully
and that's
embrace that because of the politics of the time.
Or just the time in general, like, politics aside. I mean, we've told stories on this podcast of, like, women who were, you know, born male. That's not the right term, and I apologize for that, but...
Assigned male
at birth, that's the one. And, like, they've gone on to live full lives, or it might have been the opposite. Either way, like, these people that have, like... They've lied their entire lives just because of the time that they were in and the parameters of society. Like, politics.
Yeah.
Politics notwithstanding just the way that society perceives or, like, would react or anything to those particular circumstances. It all becomes it's all just shitty. It's shitty. And it's not gotten any better.
I was going to say, so what we're saying is that historically and currently, the world is pretty shitty to the transgender community. Got it.
Historically and currently.
Yeah.
Historically, currently, futurely, probably, because it's not going to... It's going to get
the
worse.
thing is like, it's an interesting story in the fact that, like, a lot of it was, you know, this subterfuge that it feels unnecessary because we on this podcast are very open-minded people. So to us, it's like, well, you should talk about that with the person you're in a relationship with. But you also have to look at it the other side of, like, that maybe was a, you know, thing that was said, like, you can't have this conversation. People don't have that conversation in that day and age.
The interesting thing also, and I'm saying this just as, like, a person, for us to say, like, we should have that, or you should have that conversation with your partner, we're speaking from a position of privilege where we could have that conversation, you know?
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Right.
Is, like,
we have
we are
no,
speaking
like...
as open-minded people.
Yeah.
But we can't talk about... we can talk about and discuss what has happened.
Right, but we
don't
can't
have the full
know
context
at all what it was like or how that person felt, or so it's so...
That is the point I am trying to make.
I get you.
More less
I'm just
long-winded than I did.
Yeah, it's just these stories are so, like, stories about people that felt the need to lie about who they are always are just interesting to me because I have never felt the need to lie about who I am. So it's interesting seeing how
like other people have dealt with it.
Yeah, I guess it's just interesting to see, like, how they adjusted their life course to suit the time that they lived in.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good way to put it.
But yeah, I thought it was, like, an interesting story because there are a lot of, like, gray areas in it, and especially with, like, how gender is being brought up in the media lately, always antagonistically. I thought it was cool to talk about, especially for, like, cultures that aren't ours, right? Like, we
absolutely.
get a lot of the American perspective, but, like, I don't know, what was it like in China in 1960? What was it like in France for it in 1960? Like, so
yeah, it's very much seeing how that discussion goes, not only in different time periods but in different cultures.
Yeah.
I love these stories because, again, speaking from a position of privilege, speaking as a straight white man, a cisgendered straight white man, I don't have that context, but I feel the need and the want to learn about the context. So to hear these stories is always interesting, and like I always try to do my best when we tell these stories to have some perspective, but with the understanding that I can't have all the perspective because I don't go through it.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, like, you can't. But it's nice to hear because, like, it is important to, like, read stories and, like, get perspective and just, like, keep an open mind. So,
absolutely.
I mean, like, I didn't really mean for this to sort of, like...
spiral into a story or us talking
like,
about how stories are weird?
No, I think, like, I guess I was, like, more... when I was reading it, it was more interesting to... not that... like talks about gender aren't interesting. I was more confused about like why all of the information wasn't straight.
Yeah.
Like I was like, why is there so much conflicting?
Why the story was so convoluted?
Yeah, like why was it so convoluted? Like to me,
at the end, it's a spy story, baby, and all spy stories are fucking whack.
I guess I was like it wasn't even that much about the spying. Like people were willing to be like, "Yep, spying, that's part of war." And they were more focused on like,
I think ultimately
what you do with those balls though.
I think ultimately what you came across here was everyone who wanted to talk about a homosexual relationship and then like had to sneak the spy stuff in just because.
Later.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like, we can't just make this a story about, like, gender.
Right.
We have to, like, somehow make it about spies. I don't know. It was...
That is kind of how...
strange.
That's, like... listening to you tell it, that's how it sounds. Is that, like, someone just wanted to tell a story about, you know, a relationship.
Yeah.
And they added spy drama for...
added effect.
Also, it was unclear whether or not, like, whose side people were on.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, on one hand, they made, like, she out to be, like, a villain, and on the other hand, they were just like, oh, Borsko is the villain. And I'm like, I don't know, man. I think it's just, like, tough.
Yeah.
In
it's
the day and age. It's rough all around, so I don't know. Why are we blaming people? The suicide attempt, though, I don't know. This is a little dramatic, but whatever.
Well, speaking of dramatic, I'm going to go into my story.
Yeah.
Because my story also has a very dramatic person in it.
Love it. Living for it.
Well, this isn't the time for Christmas tales. It is time tonight to talk about the author of one of the most prolific holiday stories, Charles Dickens.
Charles.
You see, Charles might have been known in his time to be a compassionate man who cared greatly for the suffering and the poor. You know, A Christmas Carol is kind of like, hey, don't be a piece of shit with your money.
Don't be a
Scrooge.
Don't be a Scrooge. But he also had a few times where he kind of let the demons out, so to speak.
What do you mean?
Well, one of those times involved another famous author, Hans Christian Andersen.
Holy shit.
Andersen was the biggest fucking simp for Charles Dickens.
Oh my god.
A diehard fanboy whose dreams came true when the two of them meet at a party in 1847.
Dude, this is like Jules Verne, Edgar Allan Poe. Like, I love it when other authors simp after, like Moody Boy authors.
Okay, you're gonna love and hate this story.
Okay, I'm so ready for it.
So, it's the summer of 1847, and the two authors meet at this party. And Hans Christian Andersen spends the entire night flaunting over Charles Dickens. Like, all fucking night is just by his side and just talking his ear off. And
He's
at
like,
one
dude,
point even calling him, quote, the greatest writer of our time.
Oh my god.
That's so cute.
And the party ends and they go their separate ways, but he does have a major crush.
She's got a crush. She's got a little author crush.
Little author crush.
A little author crush.
But the two become kind of acquaintances. And Hans...
After a full night of schmoozing, he gets
they like
kind of acquaintances.
Yeah, kind of acquaintances. Like, Hans ends up getting Charles's address and writing him a bunch of letters.
Gets his number.
Yeah, basically, he's like, what's your number, girl?
I can't believe it.
The two become sort of acquaintances, and they send a couple letters back and forth. Nothing major.
Nothing salacious.
At least nothing major in the eyes of Charles Dickens. However...
Oh my god, this is so sad!
However, Hans took the fact that Charles Dickens was writing him letters as if it was God giving Moses the 10 Commandments.
Stop it!
And he goes a little wild.
Wow.
He's like, we're fucking best friends.
Yeah, he's like, oh my god, I'm Charles Dickens' best friend.
People,
he loves
let
me.
me tell you about my best friend.
His friend, Charles Dickens.
He continues to pester Charles with letters for 9 years straight.
Amazing.
Oh,
I wrote you every day.
Yes. Hi, Stan. It's me.
Oh, shit.
It's me, Stan. Yeah, fucking turns into Eminem Stan. To which Charles basically makes the mistake of writing him letters back.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Most of these letters are full of old-timey ways to be petty and sarcastically tell him to go fuck himself.
Why? He loves you.
Well, Hans is smothering Charles.
Oh.
And
this is like
This is
their
so sad.
their equivalent of texting every 1 second.
yes, absolutely. And
It's just
At
every
one-
day
in-
for 9 years he gets a letter.
from fucking Hans again. And Charles actually, in one of his letters, sarcastically says to Hans, like, yeah, I mean, I guess if you're ever, like,
In the area?
in the neighborhood,
Oh my
come
god.
swing by.
Oh, God. Rookie mistake.
Rookie mistake, because Hans doesn't get the sarcasm and immediately packs his bags to visit.
Oh, my God. He's like, I'm on my way, Charles. And Charles is like, wait, no.
Gets the letter, I'm on my way!
Oh, my God.
Except by
And,
the
like,
time that he got the letter saying, I'm on my way, it would already be too late.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
He's literally already there.
He's
He's
like
already at the
knocking
fucking
on the door.
doorstep.
He delivered the letter saying, I'm on my way
I'm
himself.
on my way.
So, in March of 1857, Hans rolls up and is like, writes him a letter being like, hey, I'm coming your way. I'm going to
I'm
be
outside.
around. Do you mind if I just, like, come chill at your pad for a fortnight?
Yeah, Waze says I'll be
Fortnite.
there in 11 hours.
And he's like, yep, I'll be here for a fortnight. See you soon, bestie. XOXO.
See you soon, bestie.
And immediately this is where the story goes off the rails.
The story was already off the rails, Zach.
Oh, it gets worse.
Okay.
It gets a whole lot worse before it gets better.
I don't like that
The thing
sentence.
I'm on the side of Hans. Like
Okay, you will not be on the side of Hans for very long.
but like I feel bad for him right now. I'm like he just like this is his hero.
Yeah, he is his hero, but like Charles was trying to politely be like, okay, you need to chill.
Okay,
and
but he
didn't
wasn't
fucking get it.
doing the right. He wasn't doing it the
No.
right way.
No, not at all. Not at all. But we're going to find out why you don't invite Hans Christian Andersen to come to your house.
Oh no.
Probably for a multitude of reasons.
Yup. So Hans shows up and right off the bat gets creepy and socially awkward because, well,
Oh
I
my
guess
God.
he's just a small, insecure Danish boy at heart.
He is a small Danish boy at heart.
And by the way, that is absolutely not a knock on the Danish people. It's just my brain automatically picturing a small, scared Dutch boy in lederhosen every time I think of Hans Christian Andersen.
Yeah,
now.
hello.
Oh my yeah. Hello, yeah, hi. Is
Oh, yeah.
Charles home?
Can Charles
Is
come
Charles
out to
home?
play?
Can Charles
Yes.
come out to play?
Knocks on the door. Can Charles come out to play? As soon as
Except he
Hans
said
arrives,
it way more sinister and way more Dutch.
can Charles come out to play?
Yeah, that's the one.
So he
Hans
shows up to the
Werner
house.
asks Charles Dickens to come out to play.
He shows up to the house, is escorted up to the guest room where he's like, okay, cool, I'm going to unpack my bags, and then I'm going to go meet the family down for, like, talking and hanging out with my bestie, Charles Dickens. And turns to Charles Dickens and says, oh, yeah, by the way, I need one of your sons to give me a shave every morning.
I demand this.
Yeah. He's like, hey, one of your wee lads has to give me a shave every day, explaining it away as this weird as fuck request. He just explains this weird as fuck request away as just something that is customary for Danish guests.
That's not true. He's making that up.
I guarantee he's making that up.
That's super making it up.
Dickens automatically is like, fuck that. I booked you an appointment at the barber every fucking day. Holy fuck, maybe that'll give me 5 minutes of peace in my own goddamn home.
Oh my god.
So we're already off to a ripping good start.
What is this making?
I don't know.
This is making me think of
How to Catch a Predator?
No. It's a movie with Bill Murray where he's like a therapist patient that like really doesn't know how to maintain distance. I have to look it up.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Look it up.
I'm
and I'll
looking
keep
it up.
going.
Yeah, please keep going.
Yeah.
So it gets worse when. Also, good to note that Charles Dickens right now is trying to leave his wife for a woman half his age.
Ah, yes.
Okay.
Because Charles Dickens is a little bit of a dick.
Classic.
Problematic writers. They're all
Dude,
around.
I bet Hans Christian Andersen was like, you can leave your wife for me.
Oh, absolutely. And so the two of them, they're on their way to dinner at the house, and they're kind of like, doing their thing, getting ready for dinner, and they're about to go into the dining room. And Charles holds out his arm for one of the women who's there to, like, take his arm and, like, walk into the dining room. Victorian times. You do weird things like that.
Of course.
Please don't tell me what you're about to say.
I'm about to tell you because as soon as he sees that arm, your boy Scooby-Doo leg fucking sprints across the room and grabs Charles's arm.
Oh,
The movie is
Charles
called What About
fucking
Bob,
Dickens.
by the way.
Oh, yeah. Okay, what about Bob?
Yeah.
Hans Christian Andersen forces Charles fucking Dickens to walk arm in arm with him into the dining room.
oh my
Beautiful.
God. Is it?
Yeah.
At the premiere of The Frozen Deep,
Yeah.
in which Charles Dickens is playing the lead,
Mm-hmm.
and which, by the way, the Queen of England herself, Queen fucking Victoria, is attending.
Yeah.
Hans bursts into tears so loud that it annoyed most of the audience because he just wept with so much joy from this show. Apparently,
Loves him.
He's that guy in the audience.
He's that guy in the audience, and apparently after the show, throws a tantrum and sulks in the lobby because no one cared that he was attending.
No one cared that Hans Christian Andersen was attending.
Yes, no one knew who he was, so he was like, "Oh, poor me! I'm so sad about this. Why am I not as famous as I want to be?" Can I fucking remind you that the fucking queen was there? Know your fucking rank, my dude.
I know, dude. Can I remind you that Queen Vicky is in the house?
Queen Vicky up in the house. You're not getting all the attention. I'm sorry.
You don't
Can
deserve
fucking
any of it when the queen is in the room.
You wrote a couple of fairy tales. This is the monarch of this fucking land. Can you chill? Hans Christian Andersen has no chill.
He left his chill at home.
He left his chill back in fucking
Deutschland.
Deutschland. While staying with Dickens, Hans receives news that his latest work was given a really shitty review.
Oh no! Was it The Little Mermaid?
I don't. It doesn't. I didn't do enough research to figure out exactly which one
That's
it was.
fine.
But do you want to take any guesses what he does when he hears this news?
Does he
Does
have
he
another
cry
meltdown?
on the lap of Charles Dickens?
He throws himself down on the lawn in front of Dickens's house and just weeps for hours.
I'm
why
I'm
is he
learning a
relatable?
lot about Hans Christian Andersen here.
Yeah.
He's low-key relatable. while
I mean-
also not being relatable.
Yeah, here's the thing. If I got bad news now, I'd probably lay myself down in my front yard and weep silently.
Yeah,
I
Charles
would not
Dickens?
go to my pen pal's house and weep silently in his front yard.
yeah, absolutely.
Not that
Like
I have a pen pal to begin with, but like, you know.
yeah, you wouldn't go to some dude you met one time and then was like, I'm coming over,
Yeah.
and then be like, I'm gonna do nothing but sob miserably for several days
And
in a
say
row.
that I should be way more popular than the queen.
and be way
Okay,
more
but
popular
here's
than the queen.
thing. Things were different in Victorian times.
No,
alright?
it's
You
Queen
made-
fucking Victoria.
You made
They're
friends
called
faster.
the Victorian times for a reason.
Okay, they probably weren't the Victorian times when she was
They
queen.
certainly were.
They
They were
certainly
literally her times. She
And
is
so-
the Victoria in the Victorian era.
Stop it.
Two of them one day go into London.
Yeah.
Because I think Charles was like, I need a fucking drink at this point.
Yeah.
I need a break from my new son that
Yeah.
I unwillingly adopted.
This child that busted into my home.
This child.
And the two of them like go into London, and Hans, being the weird little Danish country boy that he is and never having been into the city, constantly was like, I'm gonna be pickpocketed. I step one foot into London, forget about it. My pockets are empty. Again, huge
Were
Charles.
they actually?
No, he was fine. Charles Dickens fanboy, read Oliver Twist way too many times, thinks he's gonna get pickpocketed all the fucking time.
The kids are not all right.
The kids are not all right. There's a couple. He's a few hamburgers shy of a Happy Meal for sure. And so, as they're on their way into London, they grab a cab because that's what you do in London.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if you guys know about this, but cabbies in London have to know every street in London in order to like pass an exam. To, like,
Less so
become a cabbie.
nowadays, but
Yes.
there are a specific type of cabbie in London that do.
Yeah.
yeah.
and I'm
Isn't it
assuming
called,
that
like,
was-
the knowledge or something.
Yeah, the test is called the knowledge, and I'm pretty sure it's black
Mm-hmm.
cab drivers.
The black cabs nowadays have to like still have the knowledge, but like I'm assuming back then you still had to know where the fuck you were going. And they're in the back of this cab, and you know it's a little bit busy because that's London and there's traffic, so the cab takes an alternate route.
Oh no.
Do you guys want to guess what fucking happens next?
I'm gonna guess like Hans loses his fucking mind.
Oh, Hans loses his fucking mind.
Ah.
He goes into an absolute fit because he's now convinced that he's about to be robbed and murdered and thrown on the London streets. And he starts shoving every single one of his belongings into his boots.
He might be an insane
Guys,
person.
I'm losing my like for Hans Christian Andersen.
He,
Yeah!
like, might
He
actually-
wrote some of the
something's
like
wrong.
best like stories from that Disney adapted into things.
But he was
But
fucking
he's
nuts.
insane. Well, I guess it makes sense.
I mean, I guess.
I don't know, dude. Does it make this much sense?
Not that much sense. According to a letter that is later written by Dickens, all of this stuff included. Are you ready
Yep.
for it?
I love Dickens right now because he's just like
He's giving all the tea. So this list
Alright.
includes a watch,
Uh-huh.
Yep,
all of his cash,
all of it.
a time train. I don't know,
Oh.
just cash, a timetable for trains,
Yeah.
What? Okay.
a pocketbook,
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
a pair of scissors,
I could easily
Oh,
fit that
okay.
in my socks.
and a fucking knife.
Oh.
Okay.
Who gave the
scissors.
small Danish boy a fucking knife?
I would imagine
don't
that
know.
he was born with it like all other Danish boys.
Like, what the fuck? Like, it was a
I
pen
don't-
knife. It wasn't like a fucking, yes, a knife, this is a knife kind of knife.
Oh, got it,
It was just
okay.
a pen knife. But, like, still, who gave the Danish boy a knife?
Again, I believe that he was born with it.
The best part about all of this entire incident,
Mm-hmm.
is the fact that Hans Christian Andersen only spoke Danish and
Oh.
refused to speak to anyone who couldn't speak his native
Oh
language.
my god,
Wait a minute.
you waited till
Can
just
Charles-
now?
Dickens speak Danish?
I think there was a translator at some parts, and I think
What?
he did speak some Danish. But, like,
I can't imagine their friendship growing this strong had Charles not been able to speak Danish.
there was one point where Charles also wrote another letter, which was like, he only speaks Danish, and honestly, I don't know if he has that much of a grasp on that language either.
Oh my god.
But
What a hostile
this
relationship.
story is toxic.
It's so toxic.
It's-
And I also hear what you're saying, which is, Zachary, that's a lot of stuff to happen in only 2 short weeks. Because, yes, a fortnight is 2 weeks, in case you didn't know.
Today I learned.
yeah.
And to that I say, of course it was too much to happen in 2 weeks. Because
Oh, no.
not only was Hans the worst house guest ever,
How long
he
did
stayed
stay?
3 more weeks than he was supposed to.
Oh, Jesus.
He stayed for 5 fucking weeks. And he
Hans.
only leaves Charles Dickens' house when he finally gets the clue that he's not welcome anymore.
Hans.
Like, finally he
Baby.
fucking gets it.
Baby boy.
And as he leaves, he once again pulls the Hans Christian Andersen fucking move,
He has a tantrum.
and he
Does he
begins
cry?
to weep.
He weeps.
He just
Oh my
fucking
God.
bawls his eyes out as they're like, get off the fucking property, Hans.
I need you to leave. Don't come up the laneway.
Don't come up the laneway. And even better, even fucking better, as he's crying inconsolably, he departs.
Inconsolably.
And a couple weeks later,
He comes back.
Oh no. He doesn't come back.
he
Don't
doesn't
tell me he
he
comes
doesn't
back.
come back, but Charles gets a letter.
Oh, yes.
No.
This is my first message since getting home.
Pretty much.
Just want to let you know I made it home safe.
Just want to let you know I made it home safe. He gets that, like, I made it home safe text in the form of a letter where Hans says, and I quote, kindly forget the unforgivable aspect which our life together may have shown you of me.
What does that mean, Hans?
I think what it means is please forget that I stayed in your house for 5 weeks.
To which Charles never really replies.
Thank God for that.
But instead,
Oh, no.
No.
writes a note and slaps it on the mirror of the guest room
Yeah.
that reads, quote, Hans Andersen slept in this room for 5 weeks, which seemed to the family ages.
Yes.
And yes, ages was in all caps.
Yeah. That makes so much sense.
Yeah, that
Damn.
damn dude.
Hans
Hans Christian Andersen actually a menace.
He is a menace.
Hans Christian Andersen was a menace.
He's Dennis
and
the Menace.
also a mess. He was a hot fucking mess.
I can't believe how much of a mess he is, though, because like
I can.
I mean, he just seems so normal on paper.
On paper.
Does he? Have you read
Yeah,
the original
no,
Little
honestly.
Mermaid?
I mean, I have, but like I feel like all writers back then were writing fucked up shit.
I mean,
Zach,
It's
the
still
man,
not
the man
great.
fangirl too hard over Charles Dickens.
yeah, absolutely. Don't meet your heroes. I get it, but also,
It
when you
wasn't
do
even
meet your heroes, don't lose your shit.
Yeah.
It wasn't even that like Charles Dickens was disappointing. It was like he wanted to have a normal interaction with a non-Dutch speaking person.
So the problem is that Charles Dickens, like, had a bad taste in his mouth already because he was, like, kind of over getting all these letters from Hans Christian Andersen. His latest book was not selling well, and he was in the middle of, as I said, like, kind of a divorce, kind of not a
But
divorce.
he
So
also
was, like,
shouldn't have invited this man.
No,
to his house.
absolutely should not have invited Hans over. But, like, already had a bad taste in his mouth, and from day one, Hans was just a fucking
He
nightmare.
was just too much.
He was too much. And Hans was like, I have met God, and I need to just prostrate myself in front of him.
Prostrate.
Just suckle at the teeth.
Prostrate.
Prostrate, not prostate. That's the male G-spot.
All right.
He's
I
like,
need to
I need to
prostrate.
suckle at the literary teat.
Yeah, and then the other problem with Hans is the fact that he was like, I need to prostrate myself in front of God, but also I have to be the center of attention.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that was
He had
also
main character
funny.
energy.
No,
He
he didn't.
definitely
He had the
did.
side character that thinks they're the main character
Right,
energy.
exactly. Main
Oh, yeah,
character
yeah.
energy.
So it's just like, it was Charles Dickens being a grump mixed with Hans being like
An absolute freak.
Unhinged.
an absolute freak, unhinged, and it just was like a nightmare of awfulness that culminated in just like, fuck this, I'm out. And I love that.
I know. That was a good story. You're right. That was almost as good as Mathcamane from last week.
Mathcamane
thank
was
you.
a great.
Yeah, you've had some
You've had
bangers.
some banger bits.
Beans and mash.
I do want to get on to my story because I feel like it's that
Yeah.
part of it's that time in the podcast. I thought I was going to say something super profound, but it didn't come to me.
Okay.
So tonight I'm going to tell you guys a story to shed light on a gentleman by the name of Martin Cunet. I don't know if that's how his name is pronounced, but that's how I'm
could
saying
be.
it. And I mostly call him Martin through this story, so like, fuck off.
Okay.
So the other I have in my notes, there's a gentleman, a doctor by the name of Julius Hess, who is also an important part of this story, but the main focus is actually on Martin himself, who is not a doctor, and I guess it took a little while for that to be uncovered about him, but he's not a doctor. But the other gentleman is a doctor, so if you're looking at my notes, if you subscribe to our Patreon, the $10 part where you get our notes, I do make an intro about Julius Hess. It doesn't matter. So it doesn't matter. I just want you to know why it's there. So Martin was born as Michael Cohn in Poland in the year 1869 and immigrated to the United States in the year of our Lord 1888. Martin himself has a long and storied past before coming to America, but most research into his past seems to indicate that he lied about a lot of it.
I never would have guessed.
Basically because the research shows, or like the ages that he was when he was claiming to have been doing some of these things were not correct. So like he would have been 19 doing like college courses that were for a senior or some shit. I didn't really dig too much because ultimately what he did in his present doesn't matter. Or what he did in his present is only partially attributed to what he did in his past. So he lied about a lot of it basically because the ages he would have been while doing some of the things doesn't seem to make sense to most historians. But let's be honest, a lot of things don't make sense to some historians.
That's true. Like, why didn't they call the Great Bath the Wet and Wild Palace?
Correct. That will baffle us forever. So in 1903, Martin gets married to his wife Annabelle May, and in 1907, Annabelle gives birth to a child. But the problem is that their child is born 6 weeks early and is just 3 pounds.
Wow, okay.
This was a time when almost no research was being done into premature births. 3 out of every 4 premature babies died. So the mortality rate was super high. But this is also where Martin's mysterious backstory comes into play. So according to Martin himself, he had studied under a gentleman by the name of Pierre Boudin, who used
Good job on the French.
incubators. We're not going into it. Who used incubators for the purposes of keeping baby chickens alive after their birth, and at a certain point, this research had been thought to be useful for humans. Martin had tried using this technology,
For baboos?
What?
For baboos.
Baboos.
For the babies.
Yeah, I mean, he hadn't really... So 1903 is when he started using this technology on baboos.
The baboos, yes.
And the way that he started using it on baboos is actually kind of wild, and why we're talking about Martin in general. But before I get into that, I do want to mention that the reason that incubators had not been thought to be used for humans up until this point was because they were expensive to make. They were roughly $75,000 per unit.
Wait, dollars?
Yes. Which in 2020 money is $2.4 million
Oh,
per incubator.
What
babu.
the fuck?
Per babu
baboon.
chamber. So, but like I said, he started curing premature babies with incubators, in 1903. So this was around the time that he was meeting his wife, who was a nurse. But he did it in an interesting way because he made the incubated children a carnival sideshow.
Oh.
So essentially what he did, and I don't, in my research, I didn't figure out how many baboos he started with. But I do know that his original intention was to set up one sideshow attraction on Coney Island's Luna Park, and the other one was going to be in Dreamland, because there were two parks in Coney Island that he could set up as like a sideshow. Dreamland
Is it like
ended up...
to
What's up?
Is it to earn money, like, for the sideshow?
Yeah.
Like, is that
Yeah,
why
the
he's
plan
doing
for the
it?
sideshow was to earn money so that he could help more kids.
Oh, okay.
So, Dreamland ended up burning down in May of 1911
Classic.
before it opened. But all the incubator babies were saved. All the baboos and their
They're okay.
babu cages were saved.
The kids are indeed all right.
The kids are, for sure. But
this one.
the infants that
one.
were in incubators were transferred to the sideshow that was happening at Luna Park. And they were referred to as child hatcheries, which is not as cute as babu cages.
babu boxes.
Babu boxes.
Babu boxes, also very good. I don't know.
Child
The
hatcheries is kind of cute.
Yeah, that's kind of cute. I don't know. I wish the maternity wards were called child, hatcheries.
hatcheries.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like not opposed to this.
So, essentially, what would happen is he would charge 25 cents for people to come
bargain.
in and look at the babu boxes, and all the proceeds that were made allowed him to create more babu boxes. And so essentially, this gentleman is just healing more and more kids by putting them on display to the public and showing them, like, this is how we take care of
Look what
premature babies.
That's cool though. Like, I don't know. Like, you use the things that are available to you,
Right.
Yeah.
Like,
Like when I first started you telling me that he put him in a sideshow, I was like,
I
That's
was
problematic.
also skeptical.
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden I was like, oh, using the tools that you have to get better resources.
Well,
I mean,
the first...
the capitalist
Yeah.
nightmare we live in has made this happen. However, good play, sir.
Yeah, well, and it was also
Honestly,
in,
good
like, it was
play.
also in 1903. So...
Yeah. Facebook was like 10 years away.
Facebook was pretty close. MySpace would be invented 2 years later.
That's true.
But all I'm saying is that the capitalistic nightmare that is the American healthcare system now was not nearly in full swing
Fair.
in
Not
that
yet.
time. It was getting there.
Yeah. It was give it 2 years. When MySpace
Yeah,
gets
when MySpace gets there is
when-
really when the decline of the human population began. So yeah, his whole thing was, let me put these preemie babies on display, charge people 25 cents, and people went nuts to see these preemie babies. Like, they would shell out 25 cents.
I mean,
like,
what's
hell
better
yeah,
than a
brother.
babu?
By the
An extra
hundreds.
small babu.
Well,
That's
okay,
true.
so historically incorrect, because extra small babus are actually not better. They are
Yes.
sadly worse.
You know what I mean,
I do.
though.
No,
Like,
yeah, I know. Like, people would be like, "Oh, small
What-
babu." So
What's better? Nothing.
yeah,
They're in a box.
they're in a box. In my research, and again, I did this quickly between things. So I might not have the greatest answers on this, but it's believed that he had around 8,000 babus
holy shit.
come through.
we're
Like, okay,
also-
so like he would cycle them out when they got healthy enough, obviously,
Yeah,
to
yeah.
not be in an incubator. And he saved the lives of more than 6,500 of them.
Wow.
And
Holy shit.
And
Good
one
for
of
him.
them happened to be his daughter, whose name is
Yeah, that makes
Hildegard.
sense.
And as I mentioned, she was born in 1907, but he kept her alive in a babu box. So
Out of curiosity, did they name her Hildegard? Because they were like, man, she's not gonna last. Let's get this name out of the way.
I'd like to apologize on behalf of... Actually, you know what? No. Legal just called me, and they said that I should say the following. The views on the name Hildegard expressed by Meghan in this episode are not shared by the other members of the
Stop!
Triumvirate
That's just like
Production.
this ugly ass.
It's an interesting name, that's for sure.
It's a name.
It is.
No, I
It's
said
a
an
living.
ugly ass name, not an interesting name. Don't put words.
I
in my
didn't put
mouth.
words in your mouth. I'm just letting you know that legal is telling me that I should distance myself from your views on the name Hildegard.
It's like it. Why do you sound like an 80-year-old?
Why do I sound like an 80-year-old?
This was 18
No, like-
something or other.
You
Yeah, it
name
was
a child Hildegard, and they
1907.
immediately come out like Benjamin
Yeah.
Button.
Yeah. There's
me
a
I'm wrong.
on a completely unrelated note, there's a woman that had a baby recently where I work, and everyone's walking by saying like, "Oh, your baby's so cute. Your baby's so cute." And I was like, "Your baby looks like a 50-year-old man."
Babies look like they've messed up on their taxes, and they're starting to get letters from the IRS.
For sure.
Yeah.
That like, there is no in between. Like they're tired all the time. What'd you do? What'd you do today?
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
I mean, there's another baby at our facility who also looks like a grown man, and so I have conversations with him as if he were.
I love that.
I will literally sit with him and be like, "Hey, what did you think of the weather today?" And he'll just stare at me,
Yeah.
and I'll be like, "It's interesting that you say that, because I'm fairly certain that that was racist."
Do you?
You just assume he's a racist old man, baby?
He is a racist old man, baby. I say that to every
Do you
baby,
think-
though.
Do you think this is what the inventor of the
The
babu
inventor of the babu box,
would also sit with the baby
Precisely,
who
yeah.
had nowhere else
when
to go.
everyone went home, he would cycle through the babu room and he'd just have conversations with these babus.
Yeah, he'd be like, "So, what's your stance on the War of 1812?"
And they would say,
And these
"Oh,
babies-
last Thursday, you mean?"
Yeah, they're like, "Oh man, rough."
But I did think it was interesting to talk about how this guy essentially made a like a sideshow attraction so that he could help save lives. Again, I did want to touch back on the fact that he learned or studied under Dr. Pierre Boudin. I don't know if that's probably not how you say it, and I think he's French.
Bordeaux.
So it's probably bleh.
Bordeaux.
But this gentleman is...
We're really coming after the French.
We are
tonight.
always coming after the French.
Yeah, but sometimes like it's not all at once. It's like not such a concentrated.
Literally 3 episodes ago, you ended the podcast by saying, "Where's the piss history?" after we spent your entire story talking about how Paris smelt like piss.
Okay, maybe I've been coming after the French recently, and I have no excuse other than they were mean to me once.
But this...
And I've never forgotten.
This gentleman, Pierre, is considered the founder of modern neonatal medicine. And so it's believed that whether Martin actually studied under him or was just at one of his lectures or was a technician on one of his displays. Because as I mentioned, he had been using incubators to warm baby chicks and not baboos, not human baboos. Yeah. So the technology was really only being explored in the 1903, like once he got to 1903 era. So that's essentially my story.
I love that there were some baboos saved.
We saved 6,500 baboos.
And counting.
He changed, so like the coolest thing about it, well, I guess it's not the coolest thing, because the coolest thing is that he saved 6,500 baboos. But just him alone had a success rate of more than 85% of like babies that were put in his care that made it.
That's pretty impressive.
And then like through the research of his whole story, I read a story about 2 premature babies. They were twins. They were born prematurely and they weighed 2 pounds. And he had managed to save one of them, whose name was Lucille, and her sister unfortunately passed. But she basically just said that without him doing this, like the choice for a premature baby was 50-50. You either made it or you didn't. Like, and with this...
Yeah, like there's nothing you can do.
Right. Where it's just like, you're either strong enough to do it or you don't. And this gave preemies like a fighting chance to, like, even if they were born premature, they had like something that was helping them along, not like just, oh, this one didn't make it. So
yeah, I love that.
Yeah, so that's my heartwarming story of the evening.
I love it.
Was actually heartwarming.
Yeah, no,
it was. It was
a good
and
story.
I'm gonna do something here, Matt, where I don't even have to cut you off.
Okay, cool.
Because I'm gonna be nice today.
Yay!
As we're wrapping up our podcast tonight, quick sip of my fuzzy drink. I do want to give a shout out to all of our wonderful listeners. We can't do this without you. But if you would like to support us more than you do already just by listening, you can, well, first off, tell a friend. That's pretty nice. We don't advertise our show. We don't pay money to advertise. So you are kind of our front lines of advertisement by just being like, hey, go listen to this dope show. But the other way you can support us is you can follow us on Instagram at _triumvirate_productions, or you can find us on Facebook if you just look up the Triumvirate Productions on Facebook. If you want to be really cool and you want to support us monetarily, we had a couple of times where we talked about Patreon subscribers and things that Patreon members get. You can find us on patreon.com/Triumvirate Productions. You can also, if you don't have the cash to spend, we understand that. If you don't want to do that, you can head over to iTunes and give us a review, a rating and review. It kind of pushes us up the charts when you do that.
Doo-doo.
It makes us, yeah, doo-doo, haha. When you do that, it makes us look a lot better to the algorithm because, you know, the algorithm rules all. And so just by basically giving us a 5-star rating and writing a little bit of something about how you like our stees, it helps us out a lot. So, Matt, now that I haven't cut you off, take it away.
I have but one question to ask, and that question is, what the fuck, history?